Good morning, and thank you for joining us on After GMS. I'm Tracy McCain here with Christian Morgan.
Happy Friday.
Yay, it's Friday.
If you watch our stream, you saw me sliding in here at the last minute.
Yes, and I was determined to get in place before you.
You
I'm
win.
Always after
Are you
everyone
happy
else.
now? You win.
Yay! But it was great to see you do a little, shuffle slide.
Little dance.
Yes, exactly.
Our producer said, take me. I said, let's go.
Right in time. All right, well, you're right on time for a great program. We have some conversations that we want you to get involved in. One about COVID vaccinations, the other about the September 11th anniversary. But before we do all of that, we need to talk about our forecast.
And it's a great one. Have you been outside this morning? I don't know how you like your coffee, but take it on the porch. That's how I would choose it this morning. Of course, taking a live look right now over Wake Forest University. How's that for a sunrise for a Friday? Hardly a cloud in the sky. What a nice sight to see that is. 59 degrees right now in Greensboro, 59 in Winston-Salem as well, 56 in Burlington, 54 in Asheboro, 55 in Lexington. But take a look at Reidsville. 50 degrees? Cool there this morning. 53 in Mount Airy and 53 up in Martinsville, Virginia as well. Here's the plan for today. Absolutely no issues, no complaints on the weather today. It's a Chamber of Commerce weather day across the Piedmont. Upper 70s this afternoon. Plenty of sunshine too, and that low humidity, of course, makes all the difference. Cold front way past us now. High pressure in control of our weather, bringing in that cooler and drier air out of the north. So that high pressure really locking in for the course of the weekend. But what happens by the time we get to Sunday, notice it does start to shift to our east and shift offshore. And what that'll do is change our winds from the north to the south, and that will send us on a warming trend as we end the weekend and go into next week. So the cooler weather can't hang around very long, at least not yet. It just becomes a little bit easier to get these little spurts of fall-like air. Mid-80s on Sunday, we're back into the upper 80s, close to 90 again by Monday and Tuesday. All right, well, real quick check on the tropics. Just off the coast is, well, what's left of Mindy. It's weak. Nothing to worry about. You notice Larry, though, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Still a Category 1 storm and a wide storm, too, as it weakens. It's kind of spreading out a bit. That will cause some increased rip currents along the coast of North Carolina and dangerous this weekend, too, so keep that in mind. Meanwhile, we have this tropical wave that's about to emerge off the coast of Africa. That happens today. Has a 50-50 shot of development over the next 2 days, but a 70% chance of development over the next 5 days. It's really moving out over some warm water, some weak winds, some very humid air, so that will make it easy for development over the next several days. And that would become our next tropical depression and eventually our next tropical storm. So we'll watch that. Here's your rip current risk from the Grand Strand up to the Crystal Coast and up along the outer banks of North Carolina, all in red. If you're heading to the beaches today or over the course of the weekend, weather is going to be great, but just play it safe. Stay on sand, okay? That's the safest thing to do. Back here at home, we'll enjoy a little taste of fall on our way to 80 degrees this afternoon. Weekend mornings in the 50s, afternoons in the low and mid 80s, and not humid, but we do warm it up. Humidity increases a little bit too as we go into early next week. And our next chance for rain, and it's not a big chance, 20 to 30% chance for an isolated shower or storm by Wednesday and Thursday.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. So please do the right thing.
All right, let's get right into it. The Biden administration releases its most aggressive COVID response effort since the vaccine rollout earlier this year. The president's new nationwide COVID-19 protocols instruct companies with more than 100 workers to require their staff to get COVID vaccinations or test for the virus every week. Federal workers, including postal workers, TSA agents, and FAA staff, are also required to get the vaccine. The rules also apply to federal contractors and workers at health facilities that accept Medicare or Medicaid.
If you want to do business with the federal government, vaccinate your workforce.
Well, this rule applies to all federal workers, federal contractors, as I've mentioned, and those who do not comply could lose their jobs. This 6-part plan also doubles the fines for people who refuse to wear a mask in airports or on board commercial flights.
If you break the rules, be prepared to pay. And by the way, show some respect.
The president said he is working to make COVID-19 testing more affordable and accessible. He is ramping up at-home rapid test production through the Defense Production Act. Walmart, Amazon, Kroger will all start selling the at-home kits at more affordable prices for the next 3 months. Right now, you can buy them for as low as $15, but we expect the price to come down once the order takes effect. So the new pandemic protocols will affect millions of Americans. This morning, we want to hear your thoughts about it. Let's get to what you're saying. One viewer said, in part, the Biden administration was gone a bit too far. I have been vaccinated, but still believe it is a personal choice. They feel like the mandate has nothing to do with our health. It is just another way to try to control what we do. We heard from another viewer who said they do not plan on getting the shot. They say if they are let go from their job, they will live off the government. And we heard from another viewer who said they agree with the Biden administration. They said, quote, there's no reason we all should suffer because a few choose to put us in jeopardy coming out unmasked, end quote. And one last comment here from a viewer who said they have no problem with the new rules. They said, quote, there are too many people that just don't care, end quote. All right, we'll take a look at the comments in our feed in just a little bit, and they are coming in rapidly as we are discussing this. We will keep the conversation friendly, yeah? Absolutely,
yes. Be respectful in the comment section, please.
Exactly, but this is a very hot topic, and I can understand, you know, the emotions surrounding it. You know, personal decisions are an American right. And so, you know, people are saying that, but also on the other side, people saying, you know, why wouldn't you?
Right.
So it's both ways.
It's a tricky thing on both sides, you know, and there's a good argument for each side, you know. Well, hold on. There are some good arguments for each side, right? Coming from each side. And it's so new and it's so fresh, and we're still learning so much about not only the virus, but also how we can contain this and who best is to get the shot. And there are some people who just absolutely can't get it because of health reasons. So, you know, this is fresh as of yesterday. You know, it's not even 24 hours new, something that we've just learned about. So my word of advice to everybody is just take a moment, breathe, and do your research on this new, mandate from the administration, and then kind of form your opinion on that. I think we're just so quick. Everybody, no matter what side of it you're on, everybody's so quick to jump to a conclusion or jump to, offer their opinion on it. So just take a second, breathe. It's new. It's going to take some time for everything to get figured out. But I think there's good arguments on both sides of the aisle on exactly what should be done. Yeah, well, I think we have to take blame for that a little bit because we ask people for their comments and we ask people weigh in on this. Tell us what you think, So I can't be like, yeah, you guys are always quick to jump in on this because we ask you. So, sometimes you got to be responsible and say hands up. There's a respectful way to do it.
Absolutely. And people are being respectful online here. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Jeanne Painter said, don't care what Biden says. A mandate is not a law. He cannot force the jab on everyone, but I do wonder how much money he is making from his friends in China to push it. We had, she also said, not good. He's trying so hard to make us a communist country. John Poole said, what happened to my rights, my choice? This mandate from the president is illegal. Jessica said, I guess the land of the free is just no longer a thing. People should have a choice. And then I have to skip past your comment, Christian, about the weather because that's in my feed.
Sorry.
We also heard from, I think it's Martian Life Slade, who said, I am a registered nurse. I decline the inoculation. Donald Williams said, why would a vaccinated person be afraid of an unvaccinated person if the vaccine works? So, Dana said President Nixon signed the OSHA Act in 1970, which can regulate vaccinations in the workplace. It is a law that Biden is rightfully enacting. And Denise said people do have rights. People have to stand up. So, again, lots of different comments. And I literally read them in order as I was going down.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't pick and choose which ones to read. I literally just read what I was seeing on my feed. So don't think I was trying to read more one way than the other way. It's just kind of the way it popped up. But I mean, this is something that apparently is happening.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think
it's going to be interesting.
I really,
say that.
When I step back from it and kind of look at the big picture, I think we all knew at some point that this was going to be coming down the pipe. We just didn't really know when or exactly how it may be rolled out, or exactly what the ins and the outs and everything as you dig into it really mean. And I know that we'll be doing that here over the next several days. Probably today, our evening crews will be digging into it and really kind of dissecting all the information so that we can get you all the details on it.
Definitely. So it will be unfolding.
Oh yeah.
The one question I still have is, when does this start?
Right.
That was one thing that was not included in the news conference yesterday, is the start date and end date. Is it, and when does it have to be mandated by?
Exactly.
We are part of a company that has more than 100 workers.
That's right.
So what does that mean here,
What does it mean?
in our building? And for those who, don't want to show vaccination status or, their card, or want to submit to COVID testing. So not only is it, something that's happening in our communities, something that's going to affect us here at work too. So we have questions.
And that's honestly, I think that's probably the biggest thing right now. People want to know, what does that mean for me?
Right.
What does that mean where I work? What does it mean? It'll take some time to really figure it all out and kind of get it nailed down, but there will be plenty more to come, I'm sure.
That is the truth. Thank you so much for joining us in this first conversation. We do have another conversation about 9/11, the attacks on America 20 years ago. We want you to share your thoughts about what you witnessed that day and how you're thinking, today and tomorrow as we honor the anniversary. Our other top story this morning, as we move ahead in the weeks ahead, district leaders, law enforcement, and other Winston-Salem Forsyth County officials are working on ways to support Mount Tabor High School as they move forward after a school shooting that killed a 15-year-old student last week on their school campus. WFMY's Itanese McMiller has more on this healing process.
Well, we all know this was a horrific event, and what makes this even more complicated is it happened at the beginning of the school year. So teaching staff likely hasn't had time to build a relationship with students to know if they're struggling. But there are some common signs mental health experts say schools should look out for. First, be aware and keep an eye out on students. Notice changes in their demeanor and feel comfortable reaching out and engaging a child's parent to check in and see how they're doing. Mount Tabor has offered therapy dogs and crisis counseling since last week's shooting. And as time goes on, those services may subside. Experts say looking for those resources outside of school and advocacy can help students work through their emotions.
Be thinking about what you might need to possibly advocate for within your school or within your family or the community to help bring a sense of safety. And so I do think over time, if you can think of ways that your school could change or your community could change to help bring about a greater sense of safety.
And when dealing with painful experiences, honoring your own timeline for healing is important. Give yourself permission to process the experience in a way that makes sense for you. And experts also warn teachers about compassion fatigue. It's good to offer that compassion, but it's also important for teachers to take care of their own mental health because they were also impacted by this tragedy.
In your other top headlines this morning, the search for a suspected killer is now over. The FBI and local law enforcement say Malik Moore was wanted for the murder of two people, a 21-year-old man in Greensboro and a woman in Charlotte. Investigators also say Moore is the suspect in a breaking and entering case at a market last weekend. Authorities say Moore was out on parole and was just released from prison 2 weeks ago. He's in the Guilford County Jail without bond. A Davidson County deputy is charged with assault. The sheriff's office says Deputy Donald Mabe is accused of attacking a woman in Guilford County last month. The Davidson County Sheriff's Office initially suspended him from his job, but they have now updated that information, saying he is no longer with the department. New this morning, a judge finds a triad pastor guilty for his role in a Get Out and Vote rally in Graham last year. The News and Observer is reporting the judge ruled Reverend Greg Drumright is guilty of failing to disperse at law enforcement's command. The charges are misdemeanors. Pastor Drumright says he intends to appeal the ruling. Well, this weekend, organizations around our community, state, and of course across the nation will pay tribute and respect to those we lost on September 11th, 2001. This morning, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office is hosting a 9/11 memorial ceremony. It starts at 9 right outside of the front entrance of the Law Enforcement Center in Reedsville. The ceremony is, of course, open to the public. With the somber anniversary comes a flood of memories and emotions about the day and the deaths of thousands of Americans. As we remember and reflect this morning, we want to know where you were when you first heard about the attacks. What do you remember about that day? And now, thinking back 20 years later, share its impact and how it's affected you. You can join the conversation just by jotting down some comments here in our newsfeed, and we'll read some of those coming up. So we want you to meet a woman. Her name is Ann Van Hine. Her husband was a New York City firefighter. He was one of the 343 first responders who died in the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. For Bruce Van Hine, being a firefighter was a childhood dream. Well, this woman, Ann, she is now all alone, but the grandmother of 3. And she volunteers at the 9/11 Tribute Museum, giving more than 500 tours where her husband, Bruce, died a hero. The day she says she never visits the site is on the September 11th anniversary.
I don't know that I can take on the collective grief of 3,000 people.
Well, she says one of the things she misses about her husband was resting her head on his shoulders and just talking to him. So we asked you about what you remember on 9/11, and we heard from one person who said on 9/11 they were in their classroom at their desk watching it unfold on the monitor. Someone else said they were on their front porch in Arlington, Virginia when the plane hit the Pentagon. They say it flew right over their house. They were afraid their house would get hit. Another person said they were at Piedmont Dialysis working. They said they held a prayer circle with patients, not on machines. Wow, that's inspiring. Well, another person said when the first plane hit, they were on the elevator at work across the street from the Twin Towers. Oh my goodness. They said they were looking out of the window when the second plane hit. Their floor was evacuated, and this person witnessed people jumping out of windows for a chance of survival. Oh my God. Excuse me just a second. That is. Whew. Christian Brock was a student in an exchange program in Moscow, Russia, and said they first saw it on TV. They said it was like watching a movie. They called home, they called friends who confirmed the sad news, and still sad to this day. The last part of that comment said, "To God be the glory." And I think every year and every day since September 11, 2001, you know, that's who I've relied on to get through. I don't know if you guys have watched the Good Morning Show over the years, but I have shared before that, you know, I witnessed it on TV like most every other American who was watching that day. But the next day I headed to Ground Zero to report on it. I was a rookie reporter in Springfield, Massachusetts. The area had a lot of people who flew out of the Boston airport and were on the plane, one of the planes that was hijacked. And so it was our responsibility to cover the story from that standpoint. And I spent about 7 days in New York City. And by the time I left, I was completely not thinking of myself, of course.
Right.
Only thinking of the people who were there and the stories I was telling. And, you know, I just will never forget the people who were running up to me in any news crew asking for help finding their loved ones.
Right.
You know, there's thousands of names on this large, you know, poster board or side of a building of the people who are missing, and people frantically checking, you know, every 5 minutes just to see what the updates were. They established a hotline, you know, for people to call. So I was giving out that number, you know, to people, and it became less of a job, you know, reporting. I spent more time trying to help people than I did trying to do my job, because once you're in that situation, you are an American, a human.
Right.
Your job goes out the window.
Yep.
Let me see how I can help. from water to, just information was what people really wanted.
Sure.
And I will never forget, just like, we say, we should never forget, we will never forget. But what was encouraging is, after I got home and after I took like a mental health break,
Of course.
And decomposed from everything that I saw, I remember how united we were as a country, how we all came together to fight against this terror, this horror. And I'm reminded of that because I know how strong Americans can be. I've seen it, I've witnessed it. And, I reflect on that even more than I do, seeing Ground Zero.
And in a time where I feel like we are so divided, that right there is a testament to how united we actually are.
Yes.
And how united we actually can be.
That's right.
Yeah. I think back to it, I was in 4th grade, so I was still young at that point. 4th grade, Donald Lee Laughlin Elementary School in Asheboro. I was in the library. And of course it was on the TV there. I remember it, vividly. It's one of those big TVs on one of the rolling carts that they would always move in. And didn't really know the gravity of the situation at that point. I think partially just because I was so young and it was so new and it was unfolding at that point. Of course, when my mom picked me up from school, that was the only thing that was on the radio. It was the only thing that was on the TV. And then I think it really started to hit home how serious this was and kind of the magnitude of the situation. And then that night, I remember when the president came on the TV to address the nation. And at that point, I think it really hit me.
Right.
And I think I remember sitting in front of my bed at home and just kind of crying, worrying about what does this mean?
Right.
Where do we go? Am I safe at school? What am I going to do? So I remember it like that, and I remember it just like it was yesterday.
Yeah. It doesn't
never
not feel
forget
like
it.
it was 20
No.
years ago.
There's no way.
That's for sure. So we are hearing from a lot of you, and I'm going to start kind of from the most recent and then go back up, just because I haven't had time to kind of go through. But, sorry, let's see here. Chanel said, just parked my car walking into the federal building in California. When I got in the office, the managers confirmed what happened, and I just started crying. Joanne said she was at Myrtle Beach in our hotel room and could not believe what she was seeing and hearing on TV. She said, pray for our country and the leaders, even if you do not always agree with them. Our Brian Whittington said, 9/11 was the day the world stood still in my mind, as it did. Heather Harness said, I was at school at my desk. Our teacher turned on the big TV in the corner after another teacher came in the door. It's mostly a blur after that, a numbing shock. So it is heavy on a lot of people's minds, whether you witnessed it, watching it on TV unfold like most Americans did, whether you heard about it after when you got home or saw the footage in the days after. This is a day that will play out forever.
Oh, forever.
Forever.
Absolutely.
I mean, it will
Forever.
live on. And it is our duty to now educate the newer generation,
Yeah.
those coming up now who have no idea what happened on September 11, 2001, because they
right.
weren't born yet.
No, that's what I was saying.
Too young.
We were talking, during the commercial break earlier during the Good Morning Show. It's crazy to me to realize that there's now a generation that has no recollection of what that day actually was like, or remembers, where they were when it all happened. And that's crazy to me. I cannot believe that 20 years has passed since then. But we have to make sure we do the right job and a good job of educating them on exactly what happened, how it happened, how we came through it, how we remember it, and also how united we were, like you mentioned that day, and how united that we can be as a country.
Yeah, and it's a reason that we are so thankful for our military as well. Thank our troops, thank, everyone who has served, will serve, is serving, because our appreciation, our gratitude can't go far enough. One comment I had my finger on was paying tribute to the military, and unfortunately I lost it just that quickly. But I do appreciate, always thinking of our military members who are serving so proudly and fighting for our country. One other point that I'll make is, my grandfather, is a veteran, and I had never heard of Pearl Harbor growing up.
Wow.
Or, you know,
Yep.
it was his duty to tell me about what happened. And I think hearing it from him and what he went through is what makes me connected to it.
Absolutely.
Even though I wasn't alive during
Absolutely.
that time, I am forever changed by it and connected to it because I know what he went through.
Yeah.
And I think it's that connection, that personal story that we have to keep advancing for our own children as they get older.
I agree. You know, my grandpa was a World War II vet as well, and he passed away last year, but he wouldn't talk to many people in detail about the war and about what he went through.
Right.
But if you showed that you were actually interested in learning about it and, you know, and really did have that appreciation, he would sit and talk to you for hours.
Right.
And some of his stories and the things that he told us and the things that he went through, you can't even fathom.
Absolutely.
It's so I say all that to say that if you are serving or you have a family member that's serving or will serve or has served, we do not take that lightly. So thank you. Thank you.
It sounds like Jessica Richards said last year I sat my girls down and had them watch videos on 9/12. It's important that they know. And so that's great that that's already happening in homes. And I figured, you know, it was. But at 20 years, you know, you think, you know, the kids that were born that year are in college and probably aren't even really in tune with what happened. And if you were born, you know, within the last 10 years, you really don't have any connection to it. But I think we can all do our part to really make sure we remember, reflect, and also never forget.
Absolutely. You know, I'll say one more thing. I know we got to get out of here.
I know. One more thing. I'm like, same way.
I'll say, you know, after it happened, you know, I thought about the fact, I said, you know, is this something, you know, you have history books coming up through school and you think, is this something that's going to be studied? Is there going to be a whole chapter on this in American history and in U.S. history when you get to school? And, you know, by the time I was in college and leaving college, there were whole chapters and whole sections in history books about it. And seeing it in a history book and looking back and say, I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what happened that day. It's just kind of it's a weird, it's a very interesting thing to see that you've lived through such a huge moment in history like that.
You know, I asked my mom, where were you when Martin Luther King was assassinated? She knows.
Knows right off.
You know, where were you when, you know, President Kennedy was assassinated? She knows. I mean, those are these moments in time that, you know, unfortunately, you know, we're experiencing now too.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember and I'll never forget. So.
Me either.
All right, and I know you won't either. And by the way, Jessica Richards meant 9/11, not 9/12. And I thought it might have been 9/11, obviously, but then I was like, maybe it was the day after because, you know, I get it. But yeah, thank you for that clarification. All right, let's talk about the weather.
Okay, let's end you up on a good note here on a Friday. It is nice outside this morning. Goodness, I don't know how you like your coffee. I've said this before, but take it on the porch this morning and go for a walk today. Even if you don't have anything to do outside, just find something, go stand outside and look at the sky if you have to. All right, sunny skies, 80 this afternoon, low humidity. Cool mornings, nice afternoons. That'll be the story of the weekend. Low 80 Saturday, mid 80 Sunday. Warm it back up, close to 90 again by early next week. So take advantage of it while we got it. Hope you have a great weekend.
All right, guys, we will be back, of course, Monday with another edition of After GMS. And yeah, have a good weekend. Take care.
See you.
Only little fly in the ointment is this little area of low pressure. It's enough to choke me up. It's amazing.
Maybe you just embrace the cool air and brave it like Ed Matthews. It's one of us, by the way, turned on her heat on the way.
Wow.
Not me. So
By
by default.
Thank you. The directors knew it was me. I'm the culprit. Yes.
The older I get, the more I hate cold weather. If it never got below 70 in the try it again, I hear people booing.
Christian's booing.
Yeah, people are booing. Well, yeah, he went to App State, so he can handle all this, okay?
Good morning, I'm Tracy McCain. Let's talk to, sorry, can we do that again? I apologize. It was a moment.
My family is growing again. As my son Christian's shirt says in this picture, he's under construction to be a big brother. This baby is a girl. Yes, I know several of you already suspected and have been dropping hints on my page. Ed, when I told you you about fell out of your chair.
I did.
You're the best Uncle Ed
so
we could
happy.
ask for.